fast forward and women, they come and they say, I feel terrible. And my medical doctor says, oh, my labs are fine. And they're like, you're fine. You're just older. Just older, there is not a code for that. That's not a thing. That's not a medical diagnosis. And basically what that doctor is telling them is, you know what? My measuring stick does not measure you. Go get more sick. And when my measuring stick measures you, then we can do something about it.
Welcome back to Her Health, Her Way. I'm Jen Kruba-Couch. And if you're one of those women that Googles every 30 seconds, why am I so tired? What is going on with my hormones? I can't sleep at night. Then you need to stop scrolling and looking this up and listen to Dr. Kellie, who is our guest today, Dr. Kellie Lancaster from Texas. And she is going to help us understand how to balance our hormones and feel like ourselves again. Welcome, Dr. Kellie. You're a chiropractor, one of my favorite kinds of doctors, a new grandma.
Yes.
But you are very passionate about women's hormonal health and have been teaching this for years. So I actually heard you speak on this just a couple months ago.
Yeah.
I loved your presentation, and we've been trying to get you on the show, but your life is chaotic with patients and family, and now this new grandbaby, which is the most exciting thing ever.
It is the very best thing ever.
I told you.
You did, and you were 100% right.
Oh, well, I'm so glad you're here and can share with our listeners today. So what made you realize that women need a fundamentally different approach to hormones than what they're getting?
So, one of the things that chiropractors are very naturally minded anyway, and early on, even before my hormone journey, where I really deep dived into training there, I had patients that didn't get well. Right. And I kind of took it personally because I'm like, I think I'm kind of good at what I do, and why aren't you well? And the reason, truly, was because they didn't have the equipment to get well.
Right.
And so I went back and started diving into clinical nutrition and nutraceuticals and things like that, and really leveled up my training so I could fill in the gaps for those patients. And when I did that, their outcomes were better. And so then I'm like, okay, I know I can impact someone's health. And even if someone's just coming to me initially for, I have a headache,
right,
then we can deal with, you may have a structural problem, but you probably have a nutritional problem too, because 90% of Americans do, right?
Right.
So then, fast forward and women, they come and they say, I feel terrible. And my medical doctor says, oh, my labs are fine. And they're like, you're fine. You're just older. Just older. There is not a code for that. That's not a thing. That's not a medical diagnosis. It's like we're like, well, you're fine. And then you're a geriatric. No, that's not real. So,
Right.
So
we're not dead. We still got
still living. And women are like, but they say I'm fine, but I know I'm not fine. And basically what that doctor is telling them with the tests that they've run is, you know what? My measuring stick does not measure you. Mm-hmm. Go get more sick. And when my measuring stick measures you, then we can do something about it. Right. But that system is broken. And women live, and it's a downward spiral where we should be able to have robust health no matter what season of life you're in. Mm-hmm. And so I became very passionate about it because women, their quality of life was suffering. And I'm like, okay, we can fix this. And so that's kind of how I started really, really educating myself and looking at causality rather than just symptom chasing.
Yes. No, that's beautiful. And women are the caretakers in the home. And when we aren't well, the whole family's not well.
Right.
It is that perimenopause stuff is crazy. Makes us
it's hard. Crazy. Well, and the sad thing is that, in some cultures where, and none of them are industrialized countries. Industrialized countries are where we see perimenopause and menopause and all these things. And it's this horrific season of life that women are like, oh gosh, this is terrible. But in these underdeveloped countries where these women basically live by the lay of the land and they're not exposed to all the junk that we're exposed to, some of these cultures don't even have a term for menopause.
Really?
No, they don't even know what we're talking about. One day they stop cycling and they're done having babies,
Yeah.
right? But we have created a environment where it is such a hormone wrecker that we've now considered that to be a normal thing of life. And
Yeah.
that's not true.
I feel like it's almost treated like a disease, like perimenopause. When I started hearing about it, I'm like, is this a
Yeah.
new disease? Is this
That's a you know, that's very insightful because really it is. They're like, oh, you have the perimenopause. I mean,
like I don't want to be in the perimenopause.
yeah, I don't want to be in that,
Wait.
or,
Yes.
you know, it should not be so hard. I
Right.
mean, God designed your body to go through these phases of life,
Right.
and that is not supposed to be a horrific event, you
Right.
know?
Right. So I love this phrase from the research. Women have unique and masterfully designed physiology. So what
Mhm.
does that actually mean in
Yeah, sure.
practical terms?
Why are we unique? Well, we are because think
Yeah.
about this. A young girl, before she hits puberty, she does not cycle. She cannot produce a baby. She does not have breast tissue. She doesn't have she doesn't have the capability to do all those things. And then as a woman grows and matures and goes through puberty, then we engage in those things where we grow breast tissue, we begin to cycle, which means that you can carry a baby and have a child, right? And then we go through life and then we come to a place where our body says, you know what, we're done having the babies here. And so our body's going to slow down. And instead of, a cycling woman, her hormones are changing every day, doing something different, then they're going more into a flat line. You still have to have hormones, but
Right.
just because you're not getting ready to have a baby doesn't mean that there's not an appropriate hormone level for that woman. And we are designed to go through those phases, but we're designed to go through them in phases, not in dysfunctional phase.
Right.
And that's
Right.
the bill we've been sold.
Oh yeah. I feel like every time I turn around or pop on social media, everything is about perimenopause. I'm like
Mhm.
terrified. I'm like, I'm probably in that. Well, I know I'm in it, but I just deny I'm in it. I don't
Right.
know.
And it becomes very I mean it can be the rabbit hole I mean you get down in there
Yeah.
and you feel like you're drowning in information and everyone has an opinion.
Yeah.
Everyone has an opinion and it's so very one of the things I always try to remind people is that everyone's going to have their stance on whatever that is, but we always need to come back to function. How's it designed to function and then go from there.
Yeah, I love that perspective. Yeah, because I've been hearing, so many things about hormone, BHRT and I truly I'm not doing any of that yet. I'm not actually opposed to it, but I'm also like, what happens when I introduce something like that into my body that is not supposed to really have it? Like it's clearly like reducing
It's not
that.
yours. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So there's all kinds of, things to think about with that. Not that I say there's not a place for it. If you've looked at all the other things that,
Well, yeah, I feel like there's an appropriate place for a lot of
yeah,
it,
right.
but it's not for everyone. And, one of the things I try to caution women, I'm like, don't watch someone on TikTok and go buy a hormone. It's not good medical counsel on a bad ever.
Oh, I know. The influencers are like selling all the things now. It's
Yeah, yeah.
interesting.
So, again, you are uniquely made and you need to know what you need.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen. So before we dive deep, help our listeners understand why right now this matters so much for the women in the world, and then what you're seeing in your practice, and why this is something that we really want to focus on today.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So, I think you heard me when I spoke on this. One of the things we talked about was that the onset of menstruation for a girl is younger and younger all the time.
Mhm.
Why is that? And it's because of environmental exposure, our poor detoxification pathways, because so much environmental toxicity congest that normal process, and we don't manage hormones appropriately, and girls are seeing a flux of exogenous, hormones that are not theirs into their body, and they're starting to cycle. And then more and more women, I mean, everyone's talking about perimenopause. Everybody's talking about their hard cycles. More and more women are struggling with infertility, and we are doing it to ourselves. And I think, number one, for a woman to understand how her body really does function, how does that actually work?
Yeah.
Instead of, your doctor says, just trust me, you need to be your own advocate, and you need to be well informed as to what physiologically is going on, because you live with you. So you're going to know what's going on with you better than anybody else. And so understanding how that works, you're like, oh, I get this, instead of it being a scary thing, like, oh, this is where I am in this process. And so your body you can identify what's going on with your body, and then make informed and educated decisions on
Right.
the course of care that you're going to pursue.
Yeah, it's so true because if we go to a doctor, typically it might be once a year, you're with them for 20, 30 minutes. I mean, they don't know what you're dealing with day in and day out, and they're doing their best, but there's just no way. You have to understand, have that good mind-body connection, know what's going on in your body, and have a
Yeah.
little bit of education for yourself. Yeah,
Yeah.
so with that, let's just start with the basics. Like, what is a hormone and how does it affect our bodies?
Yeah.
Just like you said, people hear about hormones and they just think periods and menopause. That's the two things they think of.
Mhm. So hormones, it's important to understand what a hormone is. So a hormone, in its simplest of terms, is a chemical messenger.
Mhm.
It's just a chemical that tells a body part, a gland or an organ, what to do. And they run your life, whether you recognize it or not. They are right now
Hormones.
running your life, and they are very powerful substances that are produced by the body. Now, let me give a little tiny caveat there. Lots of things look like hormones to our body that are environmental, that are not ours. And this is where we start having troubles. But those chemical messengers are very, very powerful. We measure them in nanograms and in picograms. And so a nanogram is like if we took a pinch of salt and we threw it over 10,000 gallons of potato chips.
Hmm.
A picogram is 1,000 times smaller than that.
That is so tiny.
Right. But then when we give you a hormone, we give it to you in milligrams.
Which is way bigger, right?
Right. Right. So,
Mm.
right. Do you see that? Okay. So here
Yeah.
we're already broken in our delivery. Right.
Right.
And so I say all that because they're measurably so minute, but yet here we are, and they are running the show. They run your emotionality, they run your skin, they run how you feel, your gut, all the things. And so understanding that how we influence our hormones and how we manage them has everything to do with ultimately your quality of life.
Mm-hmm. You're so right. I mean, it is it will destroy a woman when her hormones are in absolute chaos. I mean,
Right.
we can go from we're the kindest person to 20 minutes later we are raging and we're going to tear everything in
Yeah.
our path up. It is
Yeah, and your family's like, get out of her way.
yeah. And then when you're
Yeah.
done with that situation, you're like, I don't know what happened. I don't even know why I was so
Right.
angry, but I literally could have taken on a tiger, right? Like, it's crazy. Um, so what is our endocrine system and how do those hormones affect its function? Like, what's the big picture with that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because it really, okay, so now that we understand what a hormone does to us, right? It's telling everybody what to do. Then understanding that your endocrine system it starts in your brain, okay, your pituitary and your hypothalamus. And let's make this in simple terms, so then you can really understand the big concept picture. Let's say that those are mom and dad; they're the parents, okay, and the endocrine system as a whole, everybody underneath them are their children. And so we're dealing with the thyroid, your adrenals, mammary glands, your ovaries in a female, testicles in a man. Today we're talking all about girls, though, and and our pancreas to a lesser degree. So understanding that all of those, so the parents are going to talk and they're going to send a chemical messenger hormone and they're going to tell those organs or glands what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then that gland is either going to do their job, like mom says, unload the dishwasher. And when you unload the dishwasher, you tell mom the dishwasher's unloaded, and it sends a messenger back. I got the message. I did the chore. And so that's how the body can stay in balance. But if there's a disrupt in that communication line, or if the child doesn't listen, that's the biggest thing, is our organs don't listen.
Yeah.
Then we start into that dysfunctional chaos. So, like I use the thyroid as an example because it is something that's so regularly tested in blood work. And so TSH is thyroid stimulating hormone, and that thyroid stimulating hormone, when someone's thyroid is underactive, that TSH is high.
Okay.
Which means your thyroid is low, right? And so I want you to think about that high TSH as your parent screaming. The parents are screaming at the thyroid gland, like, do your chores, do your job.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's screaming. But if the child or the organ or the gland doesn't respond, eventually as a parent, you get tired of yelling.
Oh, it stops signaling.
Right. And so then it stops. So those are all different phases. Like you can have an alarm phase and different phases. But that's how that endocrine system starts becoming problematic for you when you get into dysregulation. Now, let me say this. If you affect one part of that endocrine system, you affect the whole thing, because you will up and down regulate that endocrine system. It's a system, not an isolated, mechanism. And so when you turn off your pituitary gland by not getting that reflex loop, you're affecting other things within that. So when, like, you started our session saying, I'm tired all the time. Why am I tired all the time? And you may say, well, I went to my doctor and my doctor said my thyroid was fine. Well, are your adrenals fine?
Right.
Because all of those things play in together. And if you don't look at the big picture, you will miss the scene.
Yeah, that's crazy. And then when things stop communicating, this is why hormones seem like one of the hardest things to fix, because it's just so vast. There's so many parts to it.
Well, and it's so interconnected, it's like, I always talk about, the old song, the head bone connected to the leg bone. I mean, all that, that's real. That's a real thing. All of those things, processes are interconnected. And if you try to isolate one for the other, then you will have a consequence there, and when you have those consequences, then they're dismissed as another issue when really it's the same issue. You just didn't take care of the whole problem.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's hope? Do you feel like you've seen enough people recognize these things and they find some
I think,
solution?
yes, I think people have come to a place where they're like, you know what? I'm not supposed to work. It's not supposed to be like this. And they're really trying to educate themselves, and they're really trying to find natural ways of not just symptom chasing all the time, not just dealing with said symptom. If a teenager has hard periods, hard cycles, instead of going, why does she have a hard cycle? Because just because you just have it, that's what a medical provider might say. We just have it, you don't just get anything. That's not meant. That's not a thing. There's a reason. There's a breakdown in the process, in the function somewhere. And if you have a hard cycle, then we should look at why you're having a hard cycle. Typically, in a hard cycle, girls that have cramps, they're progesterone deficient. Now, they may not actually be progesterone deficient. They may be estrogen dominant. And so, you want your estrogen and progesterone to look like this. And if they look like, you can't even see my hands now, right?
Yeah.
All your problems happen in the gap, right? And so instead of addressing the why, what did we do? Most girls are placed on birth control pills.
Right.
So you take this hyperphysiologic estrogen and put it into these girls. And when you do that, that reflex loop of estrogen tells the pituitary gland, shut up. So typically what happens with a girl, we put her on birth control pills because her period was hard, and then she gains all this weight.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. I think I was on the birth control pill for like 9 months, and it was 9 months of misery. I said, no way.
Not doing it.
No,
But
I'm dude.
it is the
Mm.
answer. And people are like, "Oh, that's the solution for me." But
Yeah,
I would pose the question, if it's really a solution, why do you have to keep doing it?
right, right.
Right? So,
Exactly. It's not normal. I mean, our bodies are meant to have a period. They're meant to menstruate. It should not debilitate us on a monthly basis.
no.
So, so we talked a lot about the endocrine system and the way that everything is so interconnected, but is this system different for men versus women? I know that I think sometimes we are told the same approaches that men are given, but it doesn't always work the same for women, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I always use the example of like, we can say, "Oh, we're going to all lose weight." And a guy can go, "I'll lose weight." And tomorrow he's down 5 pounds. And you're like, we hate you. And I mean, because they can think about it and lose weight, but women really struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Hormonally, we all have the same hormones. They're just in different proportions because that's how you're designed based on what your sex is. A man is going to have higher androgens, testosterone, and all of those hormones. Women are going to have higher estrogen and progesterone, but we still have appropriate levels of testosterone, and men also have estrogen.
Yeah.
Okay. But their course is different because they're not producing babies.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, their body does not, and their body can, a man will go through puberty, a boy goes to puberty, and then they're an adult, and then there should be, and they should have a normal amount of hormone through their life. Now, men, when they get in their mid 40s, sometimes can go through a thing called andropause, which is similar to menopause for women.
Really? I have
Yeah.
never heard of that term.
Yeah, it's
Andropause.
called andropause. But it typically is
Wow.
because of so many environmental things. And it's
Mm-hmm.
really spurred on in many men because their detox pathways are jacked up and they don't clear estrogen that is environmental.
Oh.
And so that estrogen drives that whole dysfunctional process. And then then their body's like, well, I guess I'll produce less. And so, right now everybody's like, oh, low T, but there's a
Right.
reason why you
So
get
what are the
there.
symptoms? What are the
Yeah.
symptoms of andropause? Is it like us, less estrogen and less
Fatigue, loss of
testosterone?
muscle mass, uh-huh.
Oh.
Loss of libido, men losing, like just prematurely aging. Fatigue is a big one for them, where they just have no. And most of the men, like when we see men going through andropause, they have like the I don't cares. Like I just
Mhm.
don't care, you
Yeah.
know? And it's a hormonal dysfunction. But so the answer,
Wow.
historically in Western medicine is to put them on testosterone.
Right.
But is that
Right.
is that really the answer? Because we have to keep giving it to you.
Right. Right. That's like my fear. Like if I decide to start some sort of BHRT, can I go off of it? What happens when I go off of it? Because now my body's used to this artificial,
Right. Now,
and it's like an
yeah.
alcoholic, dropping alcohol. Like,
Well,
how does
and
it?
you never want to take the body hyper physiologic. There is a
Mhm.
balance, we are such an excess world. Like if a little's
Right.
good, a whole lot's better. But in the hormone world, and
Mm.
like people, I have women all the time tell me, man, my doctor told me I was low on testosterone
Mhm.
and they gave me testosterone pellets and I feel spectacular. And
Right.
they do until they don't.
Right.
And then they go back and they retest them like, oh, you need more.
More.
Let's until we make these women so hyper physiologic with testosterone that they have a beard and they're mean. And and none of that's good, you know? Right. And so, I mean, because God designed us to be specific,
Right.
right? And so when
Right.
we get in there and start playing with these tiny hormones in milligram dosages, you can
Yeah.
create just as much as a problem as you had before. And many people will have great success on the front end of those HRT journeys, and then start having all these problems that then now we've confounded.
Very interesting. Wow, I'm learning all kinds of things. So the terms like estradiol, progesterone, cortisol,
Mhm.
which are the key players women need, what do they really need to understand when they're maybe talking to their doctor, asking those questions? Like what should they really understand and have a good grasp on?
Right. So understanding that each hormone has a job. Okay. And there, and each hormone has a job before menopause and after menopause. Okay. And so we have to have, like, for example, estrogen. Estrogen is important. Okay. Hyperphysiologic estrogen is not good. Balanced, good estrogen and the ability to metabolize those estrogens are important. But a woman who is low in inherent estrogen, E2 typically, I mean, we have 3 main estrogens, and we break them down into metabolites. And how we break them down through those metabolic pathways in the liver, there's phase 1, 2, and 3. I like to focus on phase 2 because it's the biggest one when we're dumping estrogen. But how we break those down has everything to do with, do we put ourselves at risk for cancer?
Right.
Or does our body want to pick that protective pathway where we're getting rid of that hormone appropriately? Because that's how you were designed, for that body to clear those things and get rid of them and keep you in balance. But when the detox pathway is broken, then that's where we start seeing a lot of problems. And so, understanding that estrogen is important for our bone mass. I mean, it is. It's important for all those things. Women that are hormone depleted, their skin gets really wonky. It's not good. So you want to make sure that you have appropriate hormone. Women that have hot flashes, a hot flash is your body telling you, I have a gap. Something's wrong. Right. And it may not be estrogen. It might be progesterone. One of the most common things I treat in my clinic is estrogen dominance, where there's too much estrogen. And really what it is it's the body unable to clear its own estrogen and environmental estrogens. And everything from PCOS to fibroids to infertility to migraine headaches to arthritis. I mean, all kinds of things happen because of the gap. And when you manage the ratio of estrogen to progesterone, women are well.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. We're nice people when
Oh yeah, we can be really nice. Sure. Yeah.
we can be really nice. So women have this beautiful complex system, and I'm so thankful. I'm actually thankful I'm a woman. I'm thankful that I was able to experience conceiving and having babies. Like, I mean, what a blessing, even though I know it's not always thought to be that way, birthing a baby, but that was probably one of the most memorable parts of my life, was like birthing my babies. But where do we typically develop dysfunction? Like, when does it happen? Different for everyone, or?
Well, it used to be different for everyone, but I think it starts when you get here now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, it does, because so many things environmentally look like estrogen. Plastics in our food, glyphosate, on our food, all of the chemicals that we spray on our foods. So many things look estrogenic. Soy is estrogenic. You can do fermented soy and you're okay there. But so many things, plastics, you are hard pressed to not have plastic in your life. I mean, in fact, I always think about, like, I look around and I'm like, plastic. I mean, and I'm like, glasses are plastic. I mean, all the things. It's like you can't, your computer is plastic.
Yeah.
You cannot get away from it. But how do you manage it where you're managing it and it's not managing you? Right. And I think that understanding that estrogen is important, progesterone is important. Progesterone in Latin means to maintain pregnancy, basically. And progest, and gest is gestation. But it has so many important uses in the body for a woman and even for a man. And so knowing that you have, no matter what your season is, wherever you are in that you have appropriate ratios of both.
Right.
And that your body can manage them, that you can methylate them out, and part of that's dietary and part of that's making sure your structure can do it.
Right. So when hormones are disrupted, what consequences does a woman experience typically?
Yeah. So when our hormones become disrupted, like if we're talking about just a cycling girl, she's got hard periods, right? She's her cycles, or we see lots of young girls who they start their cycle and then all of a sudden, poof, they have no cycle, like, at all.
What happens?
Well, they stop ovulating because they have such a hormonal dysregulation. And
Mm.
a lot of times it's because they don't have the estrogen peak. A woman, we have a luteal and a follicular side of our cycles, and understanding that in the first four, like let's just break it in half. Let's say 14 days. Many women typically ovulate at like day 11 through 13 or day 12 through 16. Everybody's different, but that's when you ovulate. And so during that time, your estrogen is rising, 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 and then you're going to have a peak of estrogen. Meanwhile, your progesterone is kind of staying under here normally. This is what it should be doing. And then you hit this peak, and your body's like, oh, drop that egg, right? And then you have the opportunity in that window while that egg is viable to get pregnant, right? And then your progesterone picks up and it peaks, and it should stay up for a while looking for that egg to become fertilized, right? And so then it would stay up if the woman is pregnant. And if there's no pregnancy, then it should blunt, and then you have a cycle. You shed the whole thing, start all over, right? That's the easiest way to understand it.
Yeah,
But
perfect example. Yeah.
yeah, but when there's disruption there, a lot of times a woman, these women will not ovulate, and then so many things look estrogenic, or they stay too high, or they stay, there's 100 things that could happen, but needless to say, they're not doing the ovulating, or they work out so much. That's another thing. So many girls are really hardcore athletes, and they love it. They do. They love it. But sometimes it's very difficult on the body. Or women that don't have enough muscle mass. That's another problem. They don't have enough muscle mass, and so they don't balance those hormones. We see it a lot in ballet dancers.
Oh,
Yeah, those girls are so very, very thin and wafy that they don't have enough muscle mass, and they quit cycling. Yeah.
wow. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. So you do mention the 5 major pain points that women experience. Let's go
Mhm.
through them like one
Sure.
by one. So energy is first, right?
Yeah.
Someone says, I'm exhausted all the time. Like I can't
Mhm.
hardly get up in the morning. And then I can't sleep too, right? Like,
Right.
yeah.
So a lot of that has to do with circadian rhythm, and that's where your adrenals come in. The adrenal glands, your adrenals and your thyroid run your metabolism basically. And think of it like this: if your body was a car and your car motor is running as long as you are here with us drawing breath, then your car motor in idle is your thyroid. Your car motor in drive is your adrenals. And when a woman says, I am tired all the time, she ain't driving very good. She may not be idling very good either, right? And so you have to look at those things. And so when they're tired all the time, but then or you're tired and wired, that's your adrenals and thyroid fighting one another all the time. And then if you don't go to sleep, like you said, I don't sleep. Well,
Yeah.
your circadian rhythm is designed where you wake up in the morning and you stay awake, and your rod cells are telling your pituitary and hypothalamus to kick out a hormone called ACTH, and it tells your adrenals, hey, do your job, kick out cortisol. And that should maximize about 2 or 3 o'clock. And then it should be a slow, gradual decline. Now, how God set it up, it's because light would be less and less and less. Well, now we have electricity and we have lights on all the time. So when do
That's
we quit
all.
telling? Yeah. So that's why I tell women, I'm like, don't you even put your phone in your bedroom.
Yeah.
That phone needs to be in another room, on a charger someplace else. Right.
Yeah.
But when a woman's energy is lacking, we first start foundationally and look at what their nutrition is, because that is always the crux of everything. But then also looking at their adrenals and their thyroid, because that's part of that big endocrine system.
Exactly. And then the second one is fertility issues. So how do hormonal issues significantly impact a woman's ability to conceive?
Right. Well, just like we were talking about how a woman's cycle runs, in the 2 different phases of her cycle. When a woman has hormonal dysregulation, she can't prepare that egg, she can't prepare that uterine lining,
Yeah.
and she can't, even if she could get to that point, if she can't maintain. So like women come to me all the time and they're like, well, my doctor says my progesterone is fine. But if you test it only in blood, then it may be fine that one day. But that's like giving you one piece to a 500-piece puzzle and asking what the picture is.
Oh, right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you want to look at a woman in a month's time. And so it'll tell us how, because many women in my practice, they make enough progesterone and they dump it all in one load. And so even if they could get pregnant, they can't stay pregnant. Right. And so you want to look at like, why is your body not balancing itself? Right. And then you can help reinitiate that. Right.
Yeah. And then another one of those 5 is sleep disruption, 30s and 40s. I hear this all the time. Women are like, I wake up at 3 a.m. and I stare at the ceiling for like an hour or two, right? And then they kind of feel like they could go back to sleep, and then it's time to get up, and then the whole exhaustion cycle.
Yeah, so then they're tired because they didn't sleep, but then they still got to go, and then it's a vicious cycle. And it does have to do with that whole regulation system. So if you balance a woman's estrogen to progesterone and get their adrenals to not act like cuckoo, then they'll sleep. And, I always tell people, I'm like, sleep can cure most of what's wrong with you. I mean, you don't need magic stuff or even, but if you can't reset your body, if you can't rest, then the body can't recover. It cannot restore itself. I tell people it's like walking around on a broken leg and expecting it to get better. It's not going to happen.
Right. No, that's perfect. And then anxiety and depression, this connection is huge. And I don't know that I always understood it to the degree I do now. Maybe it's my age, because I've like noticed some of the anxiousness that occurs way quicker than it ever did, especially after I ovulate. I'm 47, so like I'm sure there's some shifts there, but the anxiety that I get is like crazy. So that is definitely, I believe, tied to hormones, and
It is.
but it's missed, right? It's missed, and then we're told we're crazy, and it's all in our head, and all those things. So, yeah. Any thoughts?
Yeah. So for sure. Okay. So when a woman tells us that they have anxiety, especially when it's cyclical, okay, like it only happens here. Okay. So what's happening to you hormonally there? And that's why testing is so important. Appropriate testing, just running down to the lab and getting, blood work a lot of times does not give us enough of a picture to really know appropriately what's wrong with you in that minute. And so looking again at the big picture can tell us like, oh, the reason she does that is because either her usually it's a progesterone problem, because most women, the crazy train happens right before their cycle. It does. I mean, women are like that, they're like, I don't even know who I am. I don't like my children. I mean, it's like, and it's right. And it's usually because of the progesterone issue. But is it truly progesterone, or do you have so much estrogen that it looks like you have too much, have a low? And so that's why looking at your hormones is such a good idea, because it really tells you it. And, because I tell people all the time, I'm like, lots of women go, well, I've tried progesterone cream, and I've tried wild yam, and I've tried whatever and whatever, and they're not better. That's like throwing spaghetti on the wall to see what sticks. And that's not a very good way to treat your hormones. Because again, they're so tiny and they do big things to us.
Yeah, and it seems like there's like, even if you do need a little support with hormones, there's like specific times that you put yourself a different
and
hormone.
Depending on what phase of life you're in. If you're a cycling woman, you may need support on the back end of your cycle. But you may be doing a great job on the front end of your cycle. Right. Whereas a postmenopausal woman, she's kind of the same all the time. I mean, not exactly, but the same all the time. And so we're not trying to produce a baby anymore. And so we don't need to have those big fluxes, but you still have to have the appropriate level or you have problems. Because I treat lots of postmenopausal women who feel wretched, and the way they get better is getting us back into that normal balance.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. It's great to know there's hope too.
Oh, yeah.
Get back.
Listen, people are fixable. We've been sold a bill of goods as women that this is just what you get.
You're just gonna feel like crap the rest of your life.
Right. This is just, it's like, that woman that's she's the We Do Not Care Club anymore. And I think her stuff is hilarious. I mean, it is. It's very funny. It's very funny. And it's very relatable, because people are like, that's me. I don't care, and they don't. But the fact that we feel so like that, where we should feel great through our life, so we can live our purpose. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. It's stealing our joy, stealing our purpose.
Hmm.
Um, so what about environmental factors? We did talk a little bit about that, but we are experiencing things our grandmas didn't ever have to deal
Yeah.
with the toxins and
Yeah.
things
Just
are
think about
sprayed.
your daily life. I mean, when you think about your grandmother or maybe your great grandmother, depending on how old you are, they cooked out of cast iron and they didn't have a cell phone. And most of them didn't have a TV. And, their cosmetics were tallow based and,
Mhm.
they made their own stuff, right?
Right.
And they didn't have all this chemical based stuff that we put on us, put in us all the time. And we are dealing with a completely different thing than those women dealt with. When smoking became so prevalent for women in the 50s, right?
Mhm.
And so that created some hormonal things. And then as the
Yeah.
industrial age, as we've introduced
Yeah.
so many different chemicals, we've just run with it, you know,
Right.
whereas grandma never had that.
Mhm.
Grandma did not know what a dryer sheet was. Grandma hung her clothes on the line.
Oh my gosh, I love hanging clothes on the line.
Yeah, it's
Maybe
so
my
good.
favorite.
It's
It
so good
smells
for you.
so good.
Hmm.
It is so good for us. Yeah.
Yeah,
So many benefits. So what if a woman is listening and she's like, this is like me to a T. I have all of these
right,
symptoms. Um, so where they might be saying like, well, where do I start? Like this feels
right.
very overwhelming. Like there is a lot of parts to this. It sounds like hormones are hard to get back to normal.
Wacky jacked.
It's
Yeah,
hard, right? Yeah. Like what do I do? Where do I start? What's a
yeah.
good starting point?
So the first thing is, I want women to feel empowered. You don't need to necessarily need to see a specialist, or
Mhm.
see somebody functional med. You start at the basic thing, and when you take care of those things, what's left, then we can deduce through that. But you have to start foundationally. If you don't give your body what it requires every single day, it
Right.
will fail you. It will.
Yeah.
You know, I, you've heard me speak about this before, but I always try to assimilate that to like a cake recipe.
Hmm.
If you did not put eggs in your cake, is your cake going to make? No. If you try to run your car with no gasoline, is your car going to go? No.
Yeah.
But then you expect your body to do that.
Oh, heck yeah. We think it
Yeah.
is like we're immortal. We can just
Yeah. And
live
you can eat
and not
crappy
shit.
and it be okay.
Right.
That's a non-negotiable. Those are non-negotiable things. Your body has the same physiologic function from the day you're born till the day you go to Jesus. And when
Hmm.
that is happening, you have certain non-negotiable requirements every day. And if you don't meet that, the body will use what it has stored, and then you rock into what we call a detrimental deficiency, and it's a symptom.
Right. Right.
So here we are, and we're talking about hormone symptoms, and that's the crux of it. So we start nourishing the body. You fix the foundation. If you fix the foundation of your house, you fix all the things, right?
Right.
And you may have some cracks in the sheetrock that you got to come back and work on, right? But we're fixed, not
Right.
band-aided. Because
Yeah.
people try to spackle a house that's unlevel and they wonder why we still
Right.
have cracks, right? Our
Right.
body's the same. And so start foundationally. I really, I love the program that we use with DMG, E Omega, and PB Restore is magic for women. It's magic for women. And it's so easy. It's so easy to be compliant with it because it's a once a day thing. But it meets all of those needs. And so when a woman can get her needs met, it's not my every 5 minutes I've got to do something different for my health, like, click my
Yeah.
heels together and do this and drink that green
Right.
thing and do this thing. And then 20 minutes later, I've got to do this thing. And
Right.
that does not work for people. Women don't have time for that. We're too busy
Horrible.
trying to manage other humans to
Yes.
be, you know, I mean, we do, whether it's our kids,
And
our
the big thing
grandkids,
is that usually our partner.
yeah, our coworkers, our husbands, whatever that is, there's a lot of managing going on.
Yes.
And so we want to make sure that we've met those foundational needs because when you do that, then you know that you have equipped the body to do what it was designed to do. And
Right.
then, I want, when I start a woman, when a woman's just getting rolling, like, okay, I'm going to capture my health back.
Right.
We're not going to do this anymore. I want a woman to commit to 90 days at a bare minimum. You
Yeah.
spent a lifetime getting here.
Yes.
It is not going to be 5 minutes and you're better. I'll have women that come back in going, well, I'm not well. And I'm like, I know. You're I know you're not going to be well for a minute. And so I think understanding that you've got to start with that foundation, meet those nutritional needs, build good cell walls. That's what omegas are for, and making sure that the body has what it needs to do what it needs to do. And then if there are residuals after that time, then we start looking at management of those things.
Yeah. And you mentioned detox as being crucial for
Mhm.
women.
Yeah.
Why is that so important? And
What do we
how do
do?
we?
Yeah. Yeah, well, so detox is not optional anymore,
Yeah.
because of,
Right.
the whole conversation we've just had. Uh, People weren't exposed to stuff we're exposed to every day. And it's not, I mean, even when you try, I aspire to be a homesteader. That's not realistic in my
Mm,
life. I
right.
want to do all those things, but that's not realistic. And so you're still going to have a certain level
Mhm.
of exposure. Now, that being said, God knew where you were. This is exactly what you're supposed to be doing. You just have to make sure your body can handle the detox load by making
Right.
sure that you're making those pathways open. And so, detoxification is something that you need to, number one, support
Mhm.
every day. That's not something that you're just like, well, once every couple of years, we'll come at that. You need to, because people are like, well, I did a cleanse 10 years ago. I'm like,
Right.
okay, yeah, you've got 10 years of toxicity now. And
Yep.
so, you want to make sure that you're making sure that the pathways are open. The body will do its job if you give it what it's need.
Yeah.
So making sure, like I love Revitazine as a supplement,
Mhm.
because that opens those pathways and makes the liver and the hormone cycles do their job, makes it happen. Right.
Yes.
So I love that. And then doing a cleanse, like doTERRA has a thing called the 90-day reset. And that is a wonderful place to start to
Yeah.
really like, all right, I'm going to make sure my body can and will do it,
Right.
because you equip the body through all of the detoxification organs. It's not just your liver. Our
Mhm.
skin is a detoxifying organ. Our gallbladder ties in with our liver, our gut, our kidneys, all those things. And so the 90-day reset can make a huge difference there and go in and get us back on track, doing its job. It's like a major tune up. And then once it can do that, then you just make sure that you keep those pathways open and you keep those, all of your daily requirements met, and your body can and will heal.
Yes. I agree. I love the Revitazine product. And doing that 90-day reset is such a no-brainer because it has that
Hmm.
foundational wellness that you talked about. And once you get through that, and like you said, then you assess what's still going on. A lot of those
Yeah.
things may have disappeared.
Yeah.
Um, so gut health. Why is this called the key to female balance?
So we've all heard about the gut brain connection, right?
Mhm.
So if your gut is a wreck, so is your noggin, right? And it's true. And once your noggin's a wreck, and
Yeah.
so you and then that has to do with hormones, because you know
Mhm.
the majority of your neurotransmitters are produced in your gut.
Yeah.
And so if a lot of times I encounter women and they can't think about getting well because they feel so bad, and it's
Right.
because they're so metabolically beat down
Mhm.
and they don't have the bandwidth. And so if you can help restore just their gut and
Mhm.
give their body the ability to produce those neurotransmitters so they have a better frame of mind, really, so that they have the bandwidth to then take that next step to take care of herself, to get her hormones balanced and get herself out of that hole, then
Mhm.
they can. But when our gut is not in good health, when we don't have a robust microbiome, you are asking the body for trouble, because
Right.
70% of your lymphatics sit in your gut. That's a major component of your immune response. It's how we digest and absorb nutrient. It's how we excrete waste and toxicity.
Mhm.
And if it's not doing its job appropriately, then you will see it, and it's going to show up as those symptoms.
Yeah, like when you mentioned foundational wellness, you
Hmm.
mentioned VMG and and our probiotics is the PB Restore and our omegas. So that's just such a simple fix. Now, another one that you talk about is like the rebuild and restore approach, which is like our PB Restore, our probiotic, but
Mhm.
MetaPower. Um,
Yeah,
I love MetaPower Advantage. That
me
changed
too.
my life. But talk a little bit about MetaPower and why that's you know, something that's highly recommended by you for
Right.
women.
Well, okay, because so many things tear down the gut wall. Okay. Now,
Mhm.
all of your tissues, your skin and your gut are the same type of cell.
Hmm.
And so y- if we don't have good structure, we can't create good function. Okay. That's
Right.
just, I mean, it's almost like you understand that concept easily. So when the body is broken down, so many things tear down our gut wall. So many, the chemicals, glyphosate is a big one. So if you don't eat organically, that is a huge thing. Antibiotic use, even if you think you're not getting antibiotics, you probably are.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, one of my big things when I teach, like a whole food lifestyle, um, seminar, one of the things I talk about is if you eat pre-shredded cheese, you're giving
Oh yeah,
yourself a
that's
dose of
so bad.
antibiotic every time. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm like, stop doing that. And they're like, but where is that? And it's called natamycin. It's a mold inhibitor, but it will
Yeah.
act like an antibiotic in the gut wall,
Yeah.
and you don't need it.
Right.
So like, grate your own cheese, people. It's not hard. You go like this. And I mean, but people are like, it can't happen. And I'm like, sure enough, it can. We did it for a long time. And yeah, but we're so conditioned to convenient. And
Right. Right.
the convenient is where our diet has become so terrible, and
Mhm.
where, because we're so busy all the time, and I'm just as busy as the next person, but you
Yeah, we're
have to,
very busy. Yeah.
yeah, but you have to
You get
create
your own
space.
cheese.
I 100% grate my own cheese. Or you get one of your kids to do it. Like I'll buy, yeah, yeah, and and then I could take one step further, buy raw cheese because it has better enzymes in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm one of those people. Yes, that's me. But but
I'm like
you know,
you.
yeah, but you want to make sure that your gut microbiome is robust and healthy, because that's where neurotransmitters come from. That's where you're going to, really have
Yeah.
a robust immune response. That's
Yeah.
where you're going to eliminate well, and I think it's so important. So Advantage, let's come back to MetaPower Advantage.
Yeah.
Those collagen, MetaPower Advantage has 9 types of collagen. And so different structures are different collagens. Okay.
Right.
So that collagen that is going to affect the gut wall will also affect the skin. And so you want to build a healthy, robust gut wall that has
Mm-hmm.
nice, healthy, robust cells in it. And making sure that we have those building blocks in the Advantage is a huge benefit there. One of my favorite things to talk about Advantage is the collagen that is the type that will line our blood vessels.
Ah,
Having strong blood
yeah.
vessels is so important.
Yeah.
So,
Like
yeah.
think about that with collagen. Like we just sometimes
Mm-mm.
I go to the
Oh, you're like hair, skin, and nails. And
yeah,
because,
right?
yeah, we're like, oh, if I look
That's what
good,
they care about.
100%. But that's the problem is when women are so conditioned to think that it's more about how we look than
Mhm.
how healthy we are.
Yeah.
You're going to be beautiful when you're healthy,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. That's a
But
very
some of the sickest, most hormonally jacked up women we have in our office
mm-hmm.
only focused on that and didn't
Right.
focus on true health.
Yeah.
And you can, my husband has all these sayings, and he's so funny. He's like, well, you can put lipstick on a pig, but you know, and so it's terrible. But that's the truth, is you don't want to just paint over it and act like it's
Right.
okay. Fix it at
Yeah.
its source. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Fix it inside and the beauty radiates
Yes.
out.
And the beauty will radiate out. That's right.
Yeah. No, I
Yep.
love it. So we feel together, we both believe
Hmm.
this. All women should be on our foundational wellness, have the
Yes.
VMD, three
Every day.
eat omegas at least a day. I mean, you can take more.
Hmm. Yep.
Taking our PB Restore. I take MetaPower Advantage every day for our
Yes.
collagen, for hormone balance. So let's go to a little bit more of the specific symptom solutions. Hot flashes. Even you
Hmm.
said even younger women are experiencing those.
Yeah.
Can you give a few tips for that?
Yeah. So, if you haven't tested your hormones, you're like, if I just don't quit feeling like I'm going to internally combust, something's got to give. So you
Right.
want to create balance, and you can use natural things to create balance that are not going to master manipulate your hormones in a bad way.
Right.
So, like if you have hot flashes, you can use a product called Calm, and it's a
Mhm.
blend of oils, and you can roll it over your lower abdomen and on your brainstem, and it really helps to balance us up. So what it does, it has several oils in it, like clary sage and
Mhm.
some things, but it has Vitex in it. Vitex
Yeah.
is chase tree, right? And
Mhm.
chase tree helps us to produce better progesterone, our own
Mhm.
progesterone, right? And so
Cool.
it can help with
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So
One
especially
of
on
my,
the second end of your cycle, that would be even the most important time.
yeah,
Is that right?
for sure it would.
Okay.
Yeah. I always tell women, usually from like the day that you ovulate on,
Yes.
just start using it. So you, again, stay off the crazy train, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
on the end of the month. And then
Yeah.
using a combination orally of clary sage, the
Mhm.
oil, and
Mhm.
also thyme oil,
Yes.
3 drops of each, and a veggie cap a couple of times a day is a great balancer. So it's not a hormone. It's going to make your
Right.
body do its own job. And then making sure that your pathways are clear. If you've done that foundational wellness and
Right.
you're still having those symptoms, yeah, that's a major player there. Um,
Perfect.
I, I also love yarrow palm.
I know I've heard you talk about this. Yeah.
I love yarrow palm. Yarrow palm is yarrow, right? Which is a wildflower. Like we see it all over Texas. Okay.
Yes.
And I see it in Colorado when we're hiking and stuff. And then palm, which is pomegranate, right?
Right.
Well, I've told women for my whole practice to drink an ounce of pomegranate juice a day
Mhm.
because pomegranate ramps something called PPAR gamma receptor sites. And those receptors have lots of different functions, immunity and all kinds of things,
Yeah.
but they do help us balance our hormones. And when you ramp a receptor, you're basically making it like more open so it wants to receive and hold on to that hormone and use it better. I mean, that's the easiest
Yeah.
way I can explain it, but it
Right.
does help. Well, instead of you having to
Mm.
drink it, we can give it to you in an oil and also in a capsule. Now, I love the
Yeah.
capsules because they're convenient as anything. They have some other things in it. It has like one of my very favorite oils in it, celery seed. And
Mhm.
celery seed is so good for your gut.
Right.
So good for your gut. Like it's the magic gut oil. So,
And I feel like it's not talked about. Like we never talk about celery seed oil.
well, it's not very glamorous. Not it's celery seed is like, wonk, wonk, meh. Nobody really cares about celery seed. It's like he's not loved. But I know someone was talking about, well, they can just get rid of it. And I was like, no, you cannot get rid of celery seed.
Yeah, we need
I
that.
love
We
that
need that
stuff.
life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you struggle with reflux and all those kinds of things, if you will start drinking, you can't put it in a capsule, drinking 3 drops of celery seed and a little bit of water before you eat, you will fix yourself, people. It's so good. And, I love it. But you can take those capsules, and that's another really, really good way to really, not force, but create a balance within your body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like it's easier to just pop in that little Yarrow Palm pill. So, okay, so the one thing that all women are embarrassed to talk about is vaginal dryness, but it
Yeah.
affects their quality of life. They have
Yeah.
painful sex, they're just uncomfortable. I actually get this question a lot, and I've actually had some men reach out to me about their wives, and
Mhm.
because the wives are so embarrassed, and it's such a sad thing that it's that embarrassing that they don't even want to talk about it or ask for help.
Mhm.
So, how do we address this naturally?
Right. Well, the first thing is to balance your hormones naturally. So if you are struggling there, usually what that means is that there is a dip in the estrogen levels, right?
Mhm.
And so many women will just start using estrogen cream. Don't do that. Figure out
Right.
what you're doing, okay?
Yeah.
But create that balance. And so I love Yarrow Palm oil
Mhm.
for that specific thing, and you can
Yeah.
blend it with carrier oils that are gentle to those very delicate tissues,
Mhm.
and then you apply it internally, right?
Right.
Some women will say, well, let me soak a tampon. Well, you're going to use a ton of oil doing that.
Right.
That's not really the
Yeah.
best, and most tampons are toxic anyway, so I
Right.
would rather you just use a gloved hand or however you want to do it, and
Yeah.
coat the lining of that tissue
Right.
every night. Wear a panty liner, and you can make a huge difference in the way that you feel, because that is a health concern. It's not just because it's uncomfortable, but those tissues can dry and get cracked, and you get secondary infections, and it basically hurts, and it does disrupt normal marital relations. And so we want to make sure that we take care of those tissues, and you can very much do it with that oil. It's just spectacular.
So a couple drops of Euro palm oil with some fractionated coconut oil or extra virgin coconut oil, something like that.
Yeah, that, sweet almond, jojoba, any of those are good. I like coconut oil because it's less greasy and not so sticky tack, and so, but then apply it there and it can make a huge difference. Yeah, and consistency is key there. Don't just do it one night and go, well, I wasn't cured. Well, no, you're not. But do it regularly, and it really is beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, that one change could change a woman's life and her relationship too, because, like you said, for marriages, that's important. All right, so as we're closing down, for the woman listening who's been struggling for years, thinking, doctors say nothing's wrong with me, I feel like I'm crazy, got all these issues, what would you tell her?
I would say start foundationally and give yourself a break mentally. Realize that it's not you, it's your hormones, and start foundationally. And once you know once you know your hormones are intact, then, not your hormones, your foundational health is intact. Once the foundational health is intact and you still have problems, then seek some type of testing instead of just, well, let me try this. Try the things we've talked about today. The thyme and the clary sage on a consistent basis are magic. Make sure your detox pathways are open. If you haven't done a 90-day reset, start there, and then take the combinations that we've mentioned. And then if you're still struggling, find someone who does functional testing. I firmly believe that hormones are better, female hormones are better looked at in saliva or urine. They're not as bound as they are in blood. And we can get a much better picture of a woman in those. So find a provider that does those kinds of things and get tested. And then and you're not guessing.
Exactly. And so how can people connect with you and learn more about you and work with you if they would like to?
Oh, well, that's very sweet. So you can, obviously you can find me on Instagram, if you want to, under Dr. Kellie Lancaster, and, you can connect with me there. I have a clinic in Bowie, Texas, and you can connect with us there. Or I'm not as, fancy as you, and I don't have a big, like YouTube podcast. That's something that I would love to do, but again, time is my life. But you can connect with us, and we can help you find someone in your area, or we do telemed a lot of times, but to help you, kind of get on track, to talk to your wellness advocate. If you are somebody that already uses like doTERRA and you're using those products and you're like unsure, we spend a lot of time really engaging with all of the advocates so that they have a clue what's going on. And so engage with your advocate. They can be a great resource for you. And maybe if you need to see a provider, they might have somebody in your area that could help you.
Yeah. No, you're always so generous with your education. And so we will link up how to reach you. If they can't quite find you, we'll make sure we link it up in the show notes, how to get in contact with you, what your practice is, because your husband's also a chiropractor. You guys practice together.
He is, but he does not want to do hormones at all. He says that in school, when they mentioned female and hormone in the same sentence, he quit listening.
It would be Dr. Kellie in that practice.
Yeah, don't talk to him because he'd be like, yeah.
He'll run. He will run. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Kellie.
Oh, gosh, it was so fun. Yeah, thank you for having me.
So fun. I always love hanging with you, and I know that our listeners have benefited greatly, and they will have some answers and some ways to kind of feel better in their lives and not feel like they're these crazy women. There is hope, and there's an answer. As long as you draw breath, you can fix yourself. Yes. Well, thank you so much for being with us.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And if you liked this content, please give us a like, a subscribe, and leave us a comment below. It helps us to bring health and wellness to the world.